Hello, and welcome to another UTS Startups Confessions. These are all about this talking to entrepreneurs that I really like and respect, like yourself, Nick, so that other people that are thinking about pursuing entrepreneurship can learn a little bit about what enabled you, what you did, what you got, and be aided in their own pursuit. What proportion of people in Australia have pets?
It's just over 60% of Australian households have at least one pet.
Okay, so the majority of people watching out there are going to have a pet. Did you think about where you got your pet? The kind of ethical breeding, all the other pets that didn't find a home, were they okay? I think you're probably thinking about it now. And if you hadn't found Petspot already, I think you're going to be glad that you did now. But can we get a little warm-up round of applause from the audience? Thank you very much for joining. I'll also say thank you to the students that I know are watching this as well. It's going to be fantastic content. So Nick, 4 years ago, before you started Petspot, who were you as a person?
Who was I? I was pretty fresh out of high school at the time, new to UTS. I was studying economics and had an interest in business and entrepreneurship, but I guess I didn't really understand what entrepreneurship meant properly. I was probably looking to get a job at one of the big four accounting firms at the time, but didn't really know where my career path exactly was. I just knew I had some general interest in the business entrepreneurship world and was quite probably naive, to say the least.
Okay, so straight into UTS, and something was happening with pets and yourself at the time?
Yeah, so at the time, just was speaking to two of my best mates from high school, Jeremy and Joseph, who are now my co-founders, or still my co-founders. And we were just having a chat about, at the time, some of us had just found a dog, or some of us were looking for a dog. And we kind of related to each other and how difficult that process was. Some of us had bad experiences online or bad experiences even meeting breeders or adoption groups in person. And we were kind of, I guess, shocked that we had all had similar experiences. We thought we might be an outlier and just been unlucky. And that kind of, I guess, sparked some interest into why this was happening.
Okay, so raise your hand if you've found a pet. Okay, raise your hand if you had a good experience finding a pet. Okay, so in 10 seconds, what is the Petspot kind of idea?
Petspot idea is to centralize the pet finding process in Australia onto one platform. So you can go on there and find safe and independently verified sources to find your next dog or puppy. At the moment is what we're focusing on, and have full support for that whole process. Okay.
It sounds like something everyone needs.
Most people.
60% of people. But so that first year of, okay, we know there's a problem, we're all friends starting at UTS together. What did that look like in terms of getting that started?
Well, I guess once that kind of light bulb moment happened where we realized the problem we were having was much more common than what we originally thought, it was just a big research journey that we embarked on. We were not from the pet industry, any of us, so we had not much context into the details of the pet industry and how it worked, or entrepreneurship and starting your own business. So we kind of embarked on a research every weekend or a couple of nights a week. Not a lot of time because we all had full-time commitments, but we'll consistently every week for quite a long time researching of how big this problem was and how could we solve it.
Okay, so weekends, evenings, researching. What kind of research were you doing?
It was research mainly about how prevalent, how hard it was to find pets online in Australia, why that was. Was there solutions that have been tried or tested that didn't work? Solutions that maybe worked overseas and haven't been brought to Australia yet? And even the semantics and, the way the pet industry works from a financial perspective, what maybe the general public do and don't know to understand the perspective that maybe a new customer has in the marketplace. So that were kind of the pet industry side of things, and then there was the business side of things. Like, obviously we knew that the platform, yes, it was centralization website, but ultimately had a marketplace aspect to it. So yeah, I guess how did starting a marketplace work, and what did that mean in terms of the work that we might need to do?
Okay, so I think a lot of people don't know what they're getting themselves into with the marketplace.
Yep.
I think you feel the same. How
Yeah.
was that experience for you in building out a two-sided marketplace?
So the research was good, but it's, very, 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 it's the 1% of what you do need to know. So no doubt we thought the journey of building a marketplace was going to be a lot easier than what it was. And we understood a little bit from our research, but nothing that we do now. Marketplace is extremely hard. Every single one has a chicken egg problem, no matter what industry it's in. Most people know that. You have the supply side, that for us is our breeders and adoption groups, and you have a demand side, which is like people looking for a pet. And it's like, which one do you build both, or do you try build both at the same time? And that was just honestly a lot of trial and error for us, and testing to kind of work out what worked best for our industry, and which one we should kind of go after first.
How were you testing it? Like, did you have a website online, and how did you build that out?
Well, Joseph was the only one that had a tech background, and he was still quite early in that journey. So we didn't have a big tech team or anything like that. So we had to leverage a lot of low code, no codes, from Webflow to WordPress. ShareTribe is great for marketplaces. To really build an MVP, and we got some initial breeders adoption groups to use that MVP. We didn't know what we were doing, and we just put it out there and hope for the best, which most of the time doesn't work. And it didn't in our case. But we had enough people using it and enough first-hand experience to pivot along the way until we kind of worked out what type of features we needed and how we might be able to grow it.
Okay. I love that. I wish more people did that. Webflow is awesome. ShareTribe is awesome.
Yep.
Is there anything else you'd recommend people check out if they're trying to save the kind of software development side of things, or this?
Yeah, definitely. I think those were the ones that worked best for us. WordPress is quite popular, obviously, but limited in some capability for functionality, but great to learn. AWS and other cloud services do provide great support now in Australia for startups in terms of discounted serving or free for a certain amount of time. And those things make a big difference, because when you're just learning or when you're just seeing what sticks, obviously you don't want to throw a lot of money into it. You might even not even have a lot of money even if you wanted to. So that's kind of what worked for us, and it was definitely challenging trying to pull everything together, but it's something that we needed to do.
Okay. So then a year and a bit kind of goes past, you start to get breeders on and customers on.
Yep.
What happened then?
We started to work out that our supply side was extremely important, mainly because that a lot of people were looking for a pet and wanted to find one from a legitimate source, and were conscious of who they supported. But the real difficulty was being able to determine online who was and wasn't legitimate and make the differentiation. So we worked out the supply side was important for us, and that allowed us to grow the marketplace. It was still extremely small, but it was growing, and we had some usage. And we basically achieved some results where we started to be confident we had some sort of product market fit, or we kind of knew what that looked like. We were always unsure whether those results were enough to validate, but at the time we felt confident enough it was. And so we kind of realized that, okay, this is working, but to take it to the next level, we need some more resources.
Okay. And in a way, you're validating the problem even further. If you, as the person with the biggest reason to find good breeders, can't find good breeders
Yep.
in large numbers, then there's obviously a problem there.
Yeah.
And probably a problem worth solving that hasn't been solved yet.
Yeah. Well, everyone wants to kind of solve a problem that's never been done before. It's very exciting, and probably sometimes overrated, right? But the opportunity brings with it, no one's ever done it before, which means you kind of need to work everything out yourself. But that's obviously what entrepreneurship's all about.
Well, I think the fact that you're also looking at examples overseas and kind of different marketplaces that you can learn from is great for not reinventing the stuff you don't need to reinvent.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
like inventing where it matters.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Obviously, the Australian market, we had to tailor a lot of things because it hadn't been done here. But there was definitely, like you said, we didn't have to reinvent things that worked in, whether it might even be in other industries. Like Seek and car sales are two great marketplace success stories from Australia. Completely different industries, but there was plenty that we learned from them.
Okay, so getting the different sides of the marketplace on board, proving that out, how did you afford to grow at that point?
Like I said, we realized we needed some more resources. So we went to every networking and VC event that we could in Sydney, had no idea what we were talking about, but we just basically wanted to see if anyone could support us in taking the next step with Petspot. We had this traffic coming in, we had this demand, but we needed to build more features to properly monetize and create an ecosystem. A lot of people, thought we were too early stage, which a lot of times is a nice way of saying, no. And there was a lot of rejection involved. But eventually, through putting ourselves out there, we got an introduction to people who had a lot of experience in the pet industry and building successful businesses in that industry. And they just really got what we were doing and really saw the vision.
Interesting. So VCs maybe not so much, but people in the pet industry, yes?
Yeah. Someone that we actually did get offers for the money that we were asking before we ended up taking the investment from the pet industry experts.
Okay.
And that was probably the hardest decision to date we've had to make in the startup journey, was turning that down, because we felt like we really needed some hands-on help and industry experience that our venture investors brought.
Yeah, and people that have access to the customers already and can pile on different kind of adjacent services and make more money out of what you're doing.
Exactly.
That sounds sensible.
Yep.
Okay, so raised a seed round, did a lot of software development, kind of built out the team, and went on a growth path through 2 years of COVID, and every second person I know getting a pet. How was that experience for you? It must have been a kind of rough ride.
It was. We were very fortunate that our industry was inversely affected by COVID. Like you said, every second person wanted a pet. So that was the fortunate side, and brought an immense growth opportunity for us. And there was no doubt that our traffic and inquiries and everything went through the roof. But that also brought some new challenges we hadn't faced before, which was making sure that the people that were finding pets through us had in mind they wanted to keep this pet for the long term and truly understood what that meant. Because maybe they're at home now during lockdowns, but they need to get back to work soon. So that was step one. And step two was, a lot of traffic and a lot of users obviously increased our costs in certain areas, whether it be customer support or servers. We need to make sure that our conversion funnels were working and we weren't just basically paying for traffic that wasn't properly using our ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay, so getting better and better at that and dealing with the rising tide of all the people that want pets.
Yep.
4 years in, what does Petspot look like today?
4 years in, so started just us three co-founders, part-time. Now we've got a team of 10 full-time. We feel like we're 1 or 2 steps away from properly becoming the place in Australia to find your next pet. We've gone from an MVP that was absolutely terrible to a great app and website now that has plenty of people in Australia using it, and it's just so cool to see people using something that you built and actually making a change in things like animal welfare, which is something we're passionate about. I think at the moment we're averaging about 250,000 puppy and dog inquiries a year. So when you see a number like that, it's pretty rewarding.
That's insane. 250,000 inquiries a year. For anyone that cares about animals, that's a number that must resonate. You obviously care about animals.
Yep.
How does that feel today after 4 years, seeing the company addressing this many people and seeing this many kind of animals being affected well by what you're doing?
We knew for our mission to actually make sense and work, we needed a large amount of people in Australia that were looking for a puppy or dog to find their service through us, who was placing a spotlight on legitimate sources. It's great if we could help a very small people find a pet for a legitimate source, but to make a proper impact on the industry in Australia and maybe starve some of these, you hear puppy mills online from the demand that they receive. We needed to, really become a big player in the industry. And so when you start seeing that growth and 250,000 inquiries, you realize that you are making an impact on animal welfare. It's pretty rewarding.
Cool. Okay, 2 last questions. For yourself, 4 years in, how has being an entrepreneur changed you?
It's probably made me appreciate not knowing stuff more. And what I mean by that is, even if Petspot failed, I would still have really, really taken away everything I learnt by going head first into the entrepreneurship journey. And that's something that I personally felt like I couldn't learn from any other avenue. So that kind of accepting the opportunity cost that comes with starting a startup, because of how much you learn and really appreciating that learning journey. And what you don't learn is an opportunity to learn more, is probably what I've taken away the most. And off the back of that, I guess it makes you realize that you don't know what you're capable of until you kind of go head first and no one has it worked out from the beginning.
Okay. You've probably answered the other question in that question, but for this looking down the camera, for anyone that's out there thinking about doing something entrepreneurial themselves, what advice would you give them, and maybe something that you wish someone had given you 4 years ago?
You're right, probably did answer that question. Off the back of that, really just, everyone has, no matter what stage of your life you are, you have some sort of full-time commitments or part-time commitments that take a large part of your life. But if you really genuinely believe in something or feel passionate about it, even if you can put a few hours a week aside to explore that and not be scared of what you don't know, like I said earlier. If you can explore that to the point where you genuinely believe there's an opportunity there, and you need to go for it, and you can learn as you go.
Okay, beautiful. I will say as well, I understand you're doing a fundraising round at the moment. It opened yesterday. It's already half closed. Maybe if you get in before tomorrow, there might be a chance of joining. But any particular investor types that you'd like to talk to?
Anyone that feels like they really understand their business and can add value, whether that be from a business perspective or a pet industry perspective. Be more than happy to talk to, like Murray said. Looking to close it soon, and feel free to reach out.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nick,
Thank
for
you.
that. That is this makes me feel good to think of all the animals out there that are being better treated because of what you're doing, and all the ones that will be better treated in future. That just sounds like a beautiful thing, and something that's going to make a lot of money along the way as well, and be a lot of fun.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much. We're going to cut the recording there. I'll say we're going to take questions from the audience now. For anyone watching, if you come and join us any Friday at 3:30 in UTS Startups Central, you'll be able to access the kind of juicy part of these when the real questions come out. But for now, please join me in thanking Nick from Petspot.
Thank you.